Some brands offer you low finance, or cashback, or servicing.
Renault don't do ors. We do ands. The Renault Kadjar with 1.91% APR and €1,000 cashback and 3 years servicing, saving you thousands. Renault, the brand with the ands. Visit your local Renault dealer. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required. Subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.
If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps is for you. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z and Corey Clubb, the podcast you're looking for. This is. Yes.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
The force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee.
At last! Where have you been?
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z and Corey Clubb.
Hello, this is Dan Z, and welcome to show number 55 of Coffee with Kenobi. We are a Star Wars podcast that analyzes our favorite saga in a whole new way. With me is my good friend and co-host, Corey Clubb.
Hello, everybody. A special shout-out to Joe Taylor, Dennis Keithley, Bradley W. Hall, Daniel, Angela Souse, Mediocre Jedi, BJ Smith, Eric Strothers, Nick DiCo, Aaron Harris, Mark Sutter, Jesse, and Mike Audette for their contributions to our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. By supporting our Patreon page, you help our show in so many ways and can also win a coffee chat podcast of your own. Check out our webpage or the show notes for more information. You can also support our show through our Amazon.com, Fandango, Cufflinks.com, Her Universe, Zach Designs, and Steiner Sports affiliate links on the site. Thank you for your generosity to the Coffee with Kenobi family.
In today's show, Amy Ratcliffe returns as we discuss our topic for show number 55, a closer look at Finn, Rey, and Poe Dameron. We will also discuss the Episode 8 score, Celebration London news, and Nick DiCo returns with a look at Star Wars video games.
In Collector's News, we look at the Ultimate Edition prop replicas, new offerings from ANOVOS, life-size action figures, and the exciting announcement regarding our TeePublic store. We also share more of your feedback and introduce our topic for show number 56.
We have some exclusive information to talk about here on Coffee with Kenobi. And full disclosure, we had the entire show ready to go in the can, and then Corey, Entertainment Weekly, came out with this blockbuster issue that's for July, the July 1st cover issue with a ton of information on Rogue One, characters, character names,
images.
Incredible images. So let's just kind of break this down real quickly, and we'll insert this right at the beginning of our show, don't you think?
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, this is big stuff, and we didn't want a month to go by before we weighed in on this. So the cover itself shows Jyn Erso, and it's got a lot of new things on here. Basically, what we've got are a taller, slimmer walker known as an AT-ACT. It hauls cargo. And there's these flatter, and this is described as a flatter fang-like interceptor known as TIE Strikers. What do you think about the design of those?
Those are pretty cool. They look like the Jedi ships Starfighters from episode 2 and 3, and we've seen mostly in episode 3. But yeah, they're really unique looking, and it's cool to see the evolution of some of this stuff, because you think like, oh, it just kind of happens. We see some years span between the films and such, and we assume that there's things just going on. But this is kind of in between that time. We see kind of some intermingling as far as the technology that's growing.
Well, here's the thing. Like when they tell me, and the same thing was with Rebels, when I say these AT-ATs are different than the ones in The Empire Strikes Back, at first blush, I can't really quite tell. You're the designer. Can you tell a big difference?
I can't. They seem taller, a little bit, like you said, skinnier. The ears on them seem a little bit differently, but I want to say undercarriage is different too. It seems like they have more fuel losages underneath there. I don't know the technical term of that, but
are you just making things up?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of.
It worked on me.
There you go.
So I'm not sure about the TIE Fighter. You just think there's such a classic design. The same with lightsabers too. And then something brand new happens. And I know from an anachronistic point of view, you wonder how it goes from this to the regular TIE fighter, which we already saw in Rebels. So it's in the same era. But my guess is they'll probably have these TIE strikers in Rebels. That would be kind of neat. So it's fun. It's very, very cool. It's this, all this stuff is jaw dropping, and that's why we had to just talk about this.
Yeah.
Now we also should say that we don't do spoilers, but these aren't really spoilers. I mean, if you want to stay away from them, and honestly, if this came out for Episode 7, The Force Awakens, I probably wouldn't have read it. Would you?
You know, it's funny because we talk about that a lot, just, you know, as our personal beliefs and how we want to disseminate information that comes out. And even we're good about texting each other about saying, hey, here's something we saw. If you don't want to ruin it for yourself or don't want to read any more into it, then, you know, disregard type thing. And, you know, stuff like this is, to me, is official. I remember reading the stuff for Episode 7. It feels natural to me. It feels like, you know, Lucasfilm was kind of really curating some of these things and allowing us to kind of eat it up in a sense. And I'm okay with it, personally. But, you know, I think folks that are looking to kind of take the story as a whole and not know a whole lot, there are some disseminating factors here we'll talk about. So if you'd rather not listen to that, maybe fast forward or, you know, hit pause and maybe save this section for another time. But definitely something that's we're going to kind of maybe dig into just some of the facts, if you will, Dan. Like like you said, we don't like to talk about, you know, who's who and what's what or what might happen. We're going to stick with the facts here on these.
And these facts are a plenty. I mean, there is a ton of information. I mean, this from Finn and Poe and Rey, we know pretty much nothing about them before we saw the film. This has a ton of information about these characters. So please kind of listen at your own risk. It's been released by Lucasfilm. It's all over everywhere. Entertainment Weekly had the exclusive. So we just put that caveat in because we want to honor for everyone who listens to this and does not do spoilers. So here we go. So we learned a little bit about Jyn Erso, Felicity Jones, the main character, the female lead. Here's what is provided for us. So she's an outlaw who's clashed with both the rebellion and the Empire and has a chance to clear her ledger of past wrongs by leading a mission for the good guys. And it's also personal to her because her father is Mads Mikkelsen, a scientist whose knowledge is sought by both sides. So I don't know. Well, I'm going to try to talk about this without speculating. But it's I don't know really what to think about her besides the fact that she was a rebel, right? She rebelled.
Sure.
Kind of cool. I kind of like the father-daughter thing. It's a bit of a trope, but it's kind of neat.
Well, it's personal stakes if you put it in those contexts. And I think about, secret missions and, spies and all that kind of stuff that we kind of see in other films relating to this. There's always stakes involved where, a main character has somebody who they love that's being held, in a certain way that makes them do what they do. And like you said, it's kind of a trope, I guess. For this instance, I don't know what's the stakes involved, but it's giving us some perspective, I guess, as far as, why she's getting involved, the way she's getting involved. Right. So they said, in the text here, it says personal for her at this point. So, and we didn't necessarily know that in the trailer. So I think it's interesting. And
in the teaser, when she was in that conference room or whatever with Mon Mothma, you could tell. I won't say contentious, but you can tell that she is sort of new to the party, and that there's something going on to her. So that's interesting. Yeah. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is these characters. As always, Star Wars does not disappoint when it comes to unique names. Unfortunately, we have the Star Wars show, which comes out every Wednesday, and Andy Gutierrez did the very positive thing of reading these character names for us. So we're going to insert that audio clip into the show right now so you can hear the official pronunciation, and then Corey and I will proceed to completely murder them when we pronounce them poorly. So here we go.
Also revealed this morning were the names of Diego Luna's character, Cassian Andor, Donnie Yen's character, Chirrut Imwe, Zhang Wen as Baze Malbus, Alan Tudyk as the droid K2SO, Ben Mendelsohn as Orson Krennic, Mads Mikkelsen as Galen Erso, Riz Ahmed as Bodhi Rook, and a little up-and-comer by the name of Darth Vader.
So let's go ahead and you want to look at these descriptions real quick? Or go ahead, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say I think the names are unique. I mean, I've always been fascinated by the naming convention in Star Wars and think, if you were a Star Wars character, what would your name be, type of thing. And you've seen the memes out there on the web as far as, take the first 3 letters from your first name and last name and combine them together and, count the alphabet backwards and, say 1, 2, 3 magic words 3 times and then there you have it. But I don't know how people pick these things out, the story group in selecting such names, but I think they're pretty interesting. I remember we're hearing, Rey and Finn for the first time, and those didn't necessarily come off the tip of your tongue so easily as Luke and Han and Leia. And right. I'm sure, after a while we'll get to know these folks.
But I have not read these descriptions at all. Have you?
No, I have not. This is actually the first time I'm seeing them.
So I guess, again, I'm so torn on this because
I know.
I wouldn't. If this was Rey and Finn and Poe, I wouldn't have read a single word of it.
Yeah, I know. Well, we have. Yeah, it's interesting because we know.
They're putting out you know why I think they're doing way more information now than they did with Episode 7?
Well, they're trying to disseminate the fact between, this is a film that its timeline is placed before A New Hope. They're trying to kind of really make that known so it's not being confusing for new fans, I think, and younger fans too. Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good way to do it, I think. I
think also the reason they do this, and they practically have to, is because most of these characters are unknown except for 2. One especially is very known. And Episode 7, there was zero risk. I mean, honestly, there was zero risk. It was the sequel to Return of the Jedi with the original main actors. That's an easy sell. This is a little more challenging because they're going to walk in expecting to see Han or Luke or Leia or lightsabers, and people are not going to see that if they're not sort of paying attention to this kind of thing. So let's dive in since this is sort of a new world. So the first description is Jyn Erso, and it says she is a streetwise delinquent, cue the Aladdin jokes here, who has been on her own since 15. She has fighting skills and a knowledge of the galactic underworld that the Rebel Alliance desperately needs. And by the way, all this information comes from Kathleen Kennedy, who fans of Star Wars may be somewhat familiar with. Says that Jyn Erso has a checkered past, been detained by the rebellion, and is being given an opportunity to be useful. And by being useful, it may commute her sentence. She's a real survivor. And then Kathleen Kennedy closes with, she becomes a kind of Joan of Arc in the story. So your initial thoughts?
That's a lot. And it's interesting because it seems to be the way characters kind of come into the fold type thing. They don't pick a side and they're kind of weighing, their own options and taking risks and living their own life. And they're kind of trapped somehow into, choosing a side in one way or the other. And this seems to be kind of the case for her. And it's like we mentioned before, it's kind of a trope. It's kind of a way to make her, a little bit more mysterious and, a rebel, like we've been talking in that essence of like, that's what I do type thing. And that's the way I live. And he says very Ezra-like, it's the way he lives. And he feels like he needs to pursue that to just get along. And that's all he knows type thing. I think with Jen, I think she is a little bit more intelligent in that aspect. She's a little more grown up than relating to Ezra. Mm-hmm. But she definitely has some smarts on her. I think the description seems to put out there, but also I think she's hesitant to choose a side or get involved.
Well, I mean, it does flat out say she has to get involved to help her sentence, and because she's been detained by the rebellion, which that means that's so subtle way of saying she's in prison, really. So she did something to get arrested by the Empire, and maybe just in the interest of time, I think we'll just maybe pick out a couple of things that stand out to us. To me, there's one sentence that stands out. It says she becomes a kind of Joan of Arc. And
I was going to say, yeah.
I actually know a lot more about Joan of Arc than you might originally expect. And the main reason is because in one of my classes for my master's, I read her biography written by Mr. Mark Twain. And
good friend of yours.
That's right. He's not as known for that because a lot of people don't realize he wrote this, but he was completely admired and respected Joan of Arc in such a profound way, and no one really cares about that probably. But what you should care about is the fact that Joan of Arc was very young and she led France, and she was an incredible figurehead in such a way that she inspired so many people. But Joan of Arc didn't get involved with the violence. She just kind of led people to help. But we do know this takes place before A New Hope, and that Princess Leia eventually has the plans.
Yeah, that sentence, I find it interesting because, Joan of Arc, like you mentioned, is more of a symbol, I guess, like you said, more than a freedom fighter herself. She's representative of the stakes involved, and it makes me think of Katniss from Hunger Games too. She was a symbol as well. She looking to broaden the scope of the little people or the ones fighting for freedom in a sense.
But she got her hands dirty.
She did, and I would assume that
Joan never killed anyone. She I don't know why this became a history lesson on something. She was for France and trying to liberate them from England, and she was such an incredible inspiration that people died for her because that's the kind of what she inspired. So I like your term of her being a symbol, and the Katniss thing is, this isn't the first time we've heard the comparison to Katniss. It's apropos, sure. I would say. All right, so the next one we have is Cassian Andor, played by Diego Luna, and I have not read this. I think this is the character that everyone thought was probably Biggs. Well, it's not Biggs. No, we know for sure. So it says Andor is a by-the-book rebel intelligence officer brought in to steady the volatile Urso. Well, there you go. Mm-hmm. But he's no square. He's committed, steady, and practical, and has seen more than his share of combat. He conveys a fair amount of experience in the reality of what it's like to do this every day, to try to figure out how to resist the Empire effectively and intelligently. And this is all from Carrie Hart, the chief of story development. Carrie ends with, it's not an easy task. So right away, it seems like, you tell me, first impressions.
Yeah, so it's funny they put that he's no square. It's totally a 70s term, right? I mean, yes. We're going back to 1977 again, and that's the lingo they're using. Maybe I don't know.
Even earlier, maybe even like
true. Even earlier than that. Yeah, down the 50s and 40s and 50s. But it's interesting that the language they use and such. And like you said, everybody sees him in the teaser there and sees him as kind of that swagger, but maybe he doesn't have that necessarily. He's in the description here, he's more by the book,
steady, practical.
Yeah, he seems like he's just more of maybe some kind of a interrogation officer or some sort, that's looking to just do his job and fight the good fight, So it'd be cool to see, them kind of clash. I would assume that, freeing their descriptions.
So yeah, I don't really know what else we could say about him. He's intriguing. He's on the cover of Entertainment Weekly next to Jen Erso, so he's obviously important. So they're going to have sort of a buddy cop thing going on.
Maybe, you never know.
Yeah. Like Mel Gibson, in Lethal Weapon, exactly, and Danny Glover.
Danny Glover, yeah.
So the next one, I think, is the character that was maybe one of the most intriguing, that's fair to say, and his name is pronounced Chirrut Imwe, and I tried to spell it phonetically. You heard Andy pronounce it, but Chirrut Imwe, this is the one that it says he's no Jedi, but he's devoted to their ways and has used his spirituality to overcome his blindness, well, there you go, and become a formidable warrior. Chirrut falls into the category of being a warrior monk. He very much still believes in everything the Jedi were about. He maintains the belief that even though the Jedi are no longer there to protect the galaxy, the idea that there are magical beings that are going to come and save us is going away, and that means it's up to normal, everyday people to take a stand and to stop evil from dominating the world. So,
wow.
I mean, how could you not love this guy already?
That is awesome. Right off the bat, I'm just like, this guy's like rose to the top of my favorite character list. And, it's just like, that is really cool.
The fact that he's blind, I mean, there are going to be a ton of comparisons to Kanan. It's in the same era.
Yeah, definitely. When you said blindness, I definitely thought of Kanan, and in his disability in a sense, and in his essence, this says flat out, he's no Jedi. So he doesn't have the way of the Force, or maybe he doesn't tap it, or he's more of a call it, a naturalist, maybe, in his spirituality. So, I mean, obviously he works from the Jedi beginnings and the way they pursue the way of like you mentioned, to a warrior monk, that maybe it's, pacificity before he has to, be called to action type thing. It's really cool. I think it sounds like a great character.
Why do you say pacifist when it says he's a warrior monk?
Well, I mean, the other thing too is, I mean, like, he's not out just to do damage like the Punisher or something.
He's not Wolverine. I see it.
Yeah. So he's not out there just to start blowing things up. He's gonna try to calm the situation down best way possible. But if it lends to I have to use my skill set, I'm gonna lay it down. Right. So
my mad skills.
There you go. His bow staff skills, best, definitely, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's cool. That's cool. I mean, and Freddie talked about what a cool actor that is too.
Yeah.
So the next one we have is Baz Malbus. I believe that's how we say. Yep, Baz Malbus, and says Baz is heavily armored and prefers a blaster to hokey religions and ancient weapons. He is devoted to protecting his friend Chirrut at all costs. He understands Chirrut's spiritual centeredness, but he doesn't necessarily support it. So it's what his friend deeply believes. Think of them as like the galactic version of Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. That's awesome. There's a ton of literary stuff here. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, you talked about buddy cop movie. This is it. These two guys flesh it out definitely in the Star Wars universe. But then their comparison to Don Quixote and Sancho, I mean, that is so interesting because him being blind is like
it's like Han and Luke in a way. If Luke were more evolved spiritually when they first meet, and Baze prefers the blaster, right? He doesn't understand the spiritual thing, but he understands what is necessarily supported. That's completely Han Solo in A New Hope.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think that's definitely like his way he sees things, I guess. But I would like to see their friendship blossom, and kind of take control of how they interact or how they get into situations or rely on one another through two different comparisons. And it seems like it's cool to see that their friendship outweighs both of their perspectives.
Right, agreed. Let's see, who else do we have here? Let's see, Bodhi Rook. Let's see what we have about Bodhi. Is there any description about this character here?
There is.
Yeah. It's the Rebel Squad's lead pilot. He tends to be hot-headed, but any abrasiveness is overshadowed by his skill in the air and the void of space. He flies a lot of cargo. One of his key jobs, and he tends to be a little tense, a little volatile, but everyone in the group really relies on his technical skills. So, I hate to do I find sometimes I find it a little easy just compared to existing characters, but you think of Hera, but Hera's calm and cool, and this guy is apparently very tense and very hot-headed. So I kind of like him already because he's just you always need a character like that in the crew, right?
That's right.
But he's a good pilot. Yeah, I mean, there must be a lot of good pilots in the rebellion, otherwise the rebellion would not last very long. But what do you think?
Yeah, you compared him to Hera. My first thought was Maverick from Top Gun.
Oh, cool.
Kind of that hot-headed guy who's,
Top Gun? Sorry, that's from the movie. Go
ahead. Yeah, so it's interesting that, the other thing, he's got the shortest description here for these other characters from what we've seen so far. And it's interesting because it seems like he's a little bit of an easy grab as far as the characters go. He's a pilot, he's hot-headed. It seems like that seems, natural for that type of character.
It'll be fun to listen to this after we've seen the movie 10 times.
That's exactly right.
Next character I find the most intriguing and somewhat surprising. It's K2SO, played by sci-fi favorite and Alan Tudyk of your favorite show, Firefly, right?
I did like Firefly, yeah.
I know you did.
Definitely,
okay,
definitely.
So apparently K2SO is a towering, powerful security droid, the antithesis of C-3PO, but not in the way those annoying droids are in the Darth Vader comic. That was my own personal I think that's maybe the most negative I've ever been on this show. He's tough, confident, and not especially interested in human-cyborg relations, and the complete opposite of a neurotic fuss budget. Says K2 is a little bit like Chewbacca's personality in a droid's body. Well, how great is that? He doesn't give a beep about what you think. He doesn't fully check himself before he says things and does things. He just speaks the truth. And it says, like Jenny, he's also seeing a bit of redemption for past wrongs. Droids, too, can have regret. That's fascinating. Wow. That's fascinating.
It's funny because I kind of list my own mind over these characters, just seeing them ins and outs and on the screen and such. And this one I hadn't heard a whole bunch about, until now. And then seeing the cover piece for Entertainment Weekly, I was like, who, that must be the robot that Kubrick is talking about, this, this killer droid type guy. It's cool because he's kind of raised to the top, because this is something we have not seen almost, I guess, at all in the films. Killer droids type thing, like a sweet IG-88. We don't see him in action, but it's kind of the only droid that comes to my mind as far as a bounty hunter or
says, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Sure,
but it doesn't say. All it says is that he's it says, my favorite line is he doesn't fully check himself before he says things and does things. He just speaks the truth. So basically, that would be what I would be like if I won the lottery.
Wow. Okay. Now we know. Now we've answered that question. Very good.
Knowing is half the battle. He sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it sounds really cool.
Now to the design. You saw the design on the cover. What do you think about the design of this droid?
It's interesting because it's definitely something that I didn't expect. He looks very.
I didn't even expect a droid at all.
Well, the movie Metropolitan, if you remember that, there's a droid. Metropolis. Thank you. Mm-hmm. It looks similar to that, or that's what my mind goes to. A very Steven Spielberg type droid, if you will.
Well, of course, Metropolis. That Fritz Lang, I believe, was the creator of that. He inspired the look of C-3PO, so it's interesting you say that.
Well, the other aspect I think of the film Iron Giant, the animated film, it looks similar to that too. Pretty cool.
It's a good call. That is a good call. I don't know what to think about that one. That's a very unique design. I shouldn't be surprised that there's a droid. I just didn't think about it. So that's kind of cool.
One more aspect I thought it was kind of neat. They spell out his name K2SO, but then it's written as K2 KAYTOO, which is just like C-3PO and R2D2. So that's pretty fun.
That's right. Did you notice that when they spell BB-8, they spell the 8 like ATE instead of EIGHT? Huh. It's in the novel, and according to Leland Chee, he said the reason they did that is they haven't spelled out any of the numbers as the actual words, like R2D2. Mm-hmm. It's not spelled TWO, it's spelled TO. So he said they're trying to be consistent. Makes sense.
Very cool. Yeah, definitely.
In their own little thing. So we got 4 characters we're going to talk about left. The first one, the next of the last 4 is Galen Erso. That is Jin's estranged father. He's the galactic version of a nuclear pioneer. And is compared here to J. Robert Oppenheimer, which that's serious stuff because that's doomsday knowledge that is sought by the Empire and the Rebellion. Most people has very specific insights about how the universe works. Where has he been? Has Jin been on her own for years? The circumstances of how the family got to the state that they are is something that they're not going to share right now. And that's, again, according to Kiri from the story group. So, there's going to be a lot of internal conflict, not only, personal internal conflict, but inside the rebellion itself. And I like it. That reminds me very much of, if you paid all attention to the Declaration of Independence when that was created and written by Thomas Jefferson. It's amazing that we even have a country, as much infighting and debating as there was. And I think we're going to see quite a bit of this in Rogue One, which is kind of cool. I think when you first see New Hope and you're literally just assume everybody's holding hands and skipping along to try to defeat the Empire, but it's not that easy.
Well, I was told that Nicolas Cage stole Declaration of Independence. Is that true? Or
I think that's another movie.
Gotcha. Anyway, so this is played by Mads Mikkelsen, this character, and what points out to me is that Robert Oppenheimer comparison, and just the thought of the weight of the knowledge that individual lived with. It's staggering, really. And I'm interested to see how Mads Mikkelsen will portray that feeling in his character and what he's been doing as far as. We've seen him before, as villains mostly in other films and such. But this might be a different take for him, a different way to be able to, using his acting chops in a different way. So I'm pretty excited for this too.
I mentioned in a previous show that when I finally saw the trailer for Rogue One on the big screen, it didn't blow me away like I hoped.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
But reading these descriptions and how complicated these characters are, I'm quite a bit more stoked.
Makes me want to watch it again, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, just I'm a little more excited about this than I think I was for a while. So we'll see. Well, in the interest of not making this particular episode, show number 55, 75 hours long, we'll try to wrap this up a little bit quickly so we can get to the main part of our show, which we've already recorded. Mm-hmm. But we've got one more good guy to talk about and 2 bad guys. The last good guy is Saw Gerrera. And this is the Forrest Whitaker character, and this is the buzz. This is the one everybody's buzzing about, and that is because why, Corey?
Well, we've seen him before. He was in Clone Wars and fought alongside Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka.
That's right. He was in the Onderon arc, which I really loved. It was a 4-part arc from season 5 And Ahsoka was pretty much the main character that fought alongside Saw and his sister Steela. And it was an amazingly powerful episode. And I remember when I first saw the picture of Forrest Whitaker, I actually thought briefly, that kind of reminds me of that character from the
Really?
Arc. Yeah.
Really?
But I couldn't even remember his name until, the past week now. You can't escape his name. But I just remember thinking, interesting. And, spoiler, this is a legitimate spoiler if you want to see season 5 of the Clone Wars and the Onderon arc. But they've been saying it while they talk about this. So if you've been following the Rogue One news, you already know. But his sister dies in that last episode of that 4-episode arc. And he's pretty extreme. Pablo talked about him quite a bit in his Star Wars story about how he's very much a rebellion. He's very much a rebel, but he does things in the extreme sense of the word. He's far from conservative.
So he's the Punisher for the Star Wars universe.
I guess. He's the one who yells, "If you continue to fight, what will you become?" in the trailer. Guerrilla combat apparently is his deal. And, I'm in. I like the character already. He was mentioned. Amy Ratcliffe has a nice article on StarWars.com, the 10 things you need to know about Saw, but he was mentioned in Bloodline. He was mentioned in Rebels, and I would refer you to that article that she wrote for those references, but he's a big deal. And I don't know that the Empire's scared of him, but he's a wild card and somebody you want on your side. He's like the Dennis Rodman, right?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, the other thing I thought of, too, is the fact that, he has personal stakes in this, too. He lost his sister. So he's driving that. That's his driving force, I would assume, for the actions he takes, which is not unlike Jin having a personal stakes as well in this this film and relating to that, in the essence of, his last final words there in the end of the teaser, what will you become? So he's also a rebel or I shouldn't say he's a rebel. He's also a character, looking to, question his motives in a sense, but also, maybe question Jin's motives as well. I guess the way he was portrayed in the teaser for me, I felt like he was a kind of a side character to either side. The Empire or Rebels. He was kind of like he's doing his own thing. Like you said, he's like the Punisher in a sense. He's not necessarily on anybody's team. He's just doing his own work. Whether that if he's an extremist, he's taking lives of whoever's side fits his needs.
Fascinating. I like that.
Maybe I'm totally wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to speculate, but I mean that's how he's portrayed to me in the teaser, and that's how I felt like he wasn't necessarily part of the Rebels. And this, he's fighting his own personal battle.
It was hard to tell. Yeah, it was. I think now that seems insightful. I like that. That makes sense.
I don't know. Sometimes I don't make sense at all. Who knows?
No, that did make total sense. I like that. Yeah, he's interesting. He was trained unofficially by Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka. Ahsoka really had a personal stake. So I think it's wonderful that he is connected to the Clone Wars so directly.
Yeah.
And then an animated character. Apparently, and Pablo talked about this on the Star Wars story, and he's talked about this quite a bit on Twitter, but Saw Gerrera was created by George Lucas, which is amazing. And he was a character that was going to be used in the Star Wars live action show, but that was obviously shelved. And then as they were creating this Onderon arc, Lucas said, hey, I'd really like to use this Saw Gerrera character. They put him in there. And so now George Lucas's fingerprints are directly or indirectly, however you want to describe it. I guess you could argue either way.
Sure.
In Rogue One, which is super cool.
Well, he's got bigger fingerprints as well, so we'll talk about that next.
Yeah, I'll say. So before we get the home run, we'll talk about your boy who you have as your landscape fixture on Twitter on your personal account. It's the man with the cape. It's director Orson Krennic. It says he is an ambitious villain who wants to use his squad of death troopers to pulverize the rebel uprising and ascend into the Emperor's graces, while trying to avoid the wrath of his enforcer, Darth Vader. The bad guy is a lot more terrifying when he really is smart and really effective. There's a lot of palace intrigue going on in the Empire with people conspiring to move up the ranks and sabotage each other. There's not a lot of loyalty there. And there's quite a bit of information in the article about his relationship with Vader. And that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Definitely.
So does that make you like this guy more or less the same?
Oh, even more. It's so cool that he's like calculating and he has different ideas of what he wants to do. Obviously, he wants to look good for the Emperor. He's got these awesome looking Death Troopers to be able to just do his bidding, and I don't know if that's necessarily his own personal way of taking care of business, or trying to outdo Vader in a sense. Of course, he's looking to make his own personal record, I guess, if you make it that way. He's an Imperial officer. He's looking to be kind of awesome. It's the way he's portrayed is he looks like he's playing a chess match against someone, and definitely calculating and being able to think maybe two steps ahead of whoever he's battling.
And I like too that he's not like a legitimate nemesis for Vader.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I like the fact that he's afraid of Vader. So let's just talk about it. It's Vader. Darth Vader is going to be in Rogue One.
Yes,
we talked about that, and I think anyone who saw the trailer could guess that based on the shadowy figure that was kneeling before what seemed to be the Emperor. To me, the best news about this, and I'm sure you'll agree, is that James Earl Jones is going to be the voice yet again of Darth Vader. That is fantastic.
Well, it's man, we always talk about people, recasting, classic characters, and Vader is somebody that, embodies such a figurehead in Star Wars and such a icon in film. And that voice goes right along with it. I mean, I can't hear anybody else play it out. I can't even name it or actors or voiceover actors who's done the voice. It's James Earl Jones, and every time I see him in other movies, I think, "Oh, that's Vader." There he is, talking normal language and and lines and such. But this is such a great way to just
it makes it real.
It makes definitely. This is definitely gets me so excited about this, and this is so much fun to talk about too. I think because just to be able to have James Earl Jones come back and do this and be so menacing, just that deep throaty voice, and be able to speak, I'm sure, great new catchphrases and lines and such. Like I said, we've seen this 10 times at least.
Honestly, when we knew that he was going to voice Vader in Rebels, and I sort of pictured in my mind, I don't speculate out loud, but sometimes in your mind you think, if he's recording a bunch of stuff for Lucasfilm, surely he's recording dialogue for other things with Vader. And I thought there'd be more Rebels with Vader. And I secretly hoped that he would be in a movie, but I didn't know. I had no clue. I didn't let myself really go there. But now sort of all the dominoes sort of get into place. You think, well, maybe he did the lines for Rogue One when he was doing this stuff for Rebels. Who knows? I'm sure
makes sense.
Come out.
I mean, why not? I mean, I think the story group has a big plans in mind, and their forward thinking is way ahead of us, what we think or what we know. And like you said, they're definitely planning for bigger things, and this was just one of them.
4 and 5 years in the works, I guess, with some of this stuff. Here's the big things we know about Vader, besides the 10,000 other things we already know about him that's been well established. Kathleen Kennedy flat out says they're going to make careful use of Vader because he's going to be in the movie sparingly, but at a key strategic moment, he's going to loom large. Now, to me, I wish I didn't read that.
Yeah,
I didn't want to know that. I sort of expected that, to be honest, because you're not going to have one in a bunch of times. Because if he's in all the time, the Rebels don't really stand a chance. So I don't think he can loom large. I mean, he has to loom large, but I don't think he can be a major. It's just like in Rebels.
I was just going to say, just like in Rebels, and other than the last season finale, him being a major factor, but that was directly related to him as well. I mean, definitely. So. For him to have that much screen time in Rebels was okay with me. That felt okay because it was needed, but it wasn't like he necessarily trumped the whole season. If that was the case, they used him well. I don't think he was like all powerful, and he was powerful, but I mean, like, he wasn't chewing up the scenery and such. In the essence of the fact that it was an every episode and just dominating factor. I mean,
when he's there. He's there.
Right, exactly.
It's the specter of him. It says when the Rogue One, as it unfolds, he's still a background player in politics, which doesn't surprise me considering kind of how his vibe was in A New Hope. He's the muscle, and there's more information about his relationship with Krennic, Orson Krennic. It says that he and Vader aren't friends; they're barely allies, and he's understandably threatened by the Sith Lord because Vader does not play by the rules. He's in the military structure, but he's not a part of it. He's not beholden to it. He's only accountable to Palpatine. So Of course, that is scary. So we've got a lot of things going on in this movie. It's going to be very character driven, apparently. And I'm just absolutely stoked that Vader is back. I mean, these are the kind of those things like when you hear that they're going to make new Star Wars films, or you hear that Darth Vader is going to be a new Star Wars film. Years ago, you never would have believed it. It's like this party that has these incredible, hopeful fantasies about what you'd like to see again. And this is like checking all the boxes and then some.
It's like a dream come true. Like you said, you mentioned you sit there and daydream about possibilities and what's going to happen next. And it's happening. This is it in the flesh. And my thought process too is, as we move forward in time, we see Harrison Ford getting older. Obviously, James Earl Jones is up there in age.
He's 85.
He's 85, and this is such a great way to carry on his legacy. And be able to have him, pursue this character and carry this character on, and having him do it as having done in the original is wonderful. It's fantastic.
So, anything else you want to talk about before we move on to our regular show?
Let's go watch the trailer one more time and enjoy it and kind of see it with a new perspective.
Very good. Well, everybody let us know what you think about this. Weigh in, and we are already on board, but now it just seems more concrete, and time to memorize some more names.
There you go.
All right, let's go to the show.
Ojaba. The Jedi News app is available now for iOS and Android. Ojaba. From the Apple, Google Play, and Amazon app stores. Ojaba. All the latest breaking news, podcasts, videos, and social media posts from Team Jedi News. Ojaba. All in the palm of your hand. The Jedi News Network. Ojaba. Gathering news from across the galaxy.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
Oh, wait. This is interesting. You found something.
I'm about to let everyone in on the secret.
For our first news story, we have some exciting news, and I first heard about this on Twitter, and it was retweeted by Steve Sansweet. And Steve has told us if something comes from Variety or The Hollywood Reporter, and you haven't necessarily heard it from Lucasfilm, if Variety is putting it out there, consider it official. So what he said was John Williams is going to score Episode 8. Now later, Corey, I don't know if you know this, but they did officially say Spielberg said John Williams is going to do the next Indiana Jones film, and we have a MacGuffin for it.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic, right? And now you got to keep in mind, Williams is 84, but he also had something else to say about Episode 8, didn't he?
Williams himself says he expects to do Episode 8. Granted, he's done such a body of work, I think, for all of cinema, really. He also says to go on to say that you mentioned he's doing Indiana Jones, a lot of upcoming stuff. It's so great to hear this, too, coming from John Williams. And, of course, Steven Spielberg is a good friend of George Lucas and John Williams, respectively. And, it's to hear this kind of from their mouths, they're expecting to work on some of these larger projects that they're so synonymously put into. I think it's great news to hear from them. And I certainly respect John Williams very, very highly as far as him, getting along in age and looking to maybe take on certain projects other than other projects. And he just keeps on taking these projects we as fans love so much. Indiana Jones obviously is a big one for you and I. And, of course, Star Wars.
You bet. And his exact thing that he said in Variety was he's going to do Ready Player One, which we'll talk about in a moment. But then next year it says he expects to do the next Star Wars film. If he can do it, he certainly will. That's what he said. I told Kathy Kennedy, I'm happy to do it, but the real reason is I didn't want anybody else writing music for Daisy Ridley. How great is that?
That's really, really cool. It shows me that he has connection, obviously, with this younger cast, too, I think, and obviously with J.J. Abrams, too. I mean, they would a lot of input there. And he just breathes excellence. He just has these scores are so sweeping and so moving in films, and he's still working. He's still working in film and in the industry itself. He's still doing wonderful pieces.
And I mentioned before we're going to talk about Ready Player One, which is going to be the film he's going to tackle next. Have you read that book?
Yes, I have.
And?
Yeah. It's really a lot of fun. It reminds me of... trying to think of Ender's Game a little bit. So it's kind of has that feel of like as a mashup like Ender's Game and like 80s video games. So kind of like these digital video games that are being played like online. and there's like some quests involved and such, and it's very, very sci-fi and very interesting take on kind of like immersing yourself in an in-game environment.
It's not like that Adam Sandler movie Pixels, is it?
Not whatsoever. No.
Okay, that's good news. No offense, Freddie. That's good news. Yeah, I think it's so charming that he says he doesn't want anyone else writing music for Daisy, really, because he is as enchanted by her as audiences and Finn was. I think that's so neat. And we'll hear more about that with our conversation coming up with Amy.
I will ask too, Dan, just speaking of Williams' work, like you mentioned, he's getting along in age. Do you foresee him doing much more, further down the road as far as we just think synonymously with Star Wars? Well, of course it'll be John Williams. Indiana Jones, of course it'll be John Williams. And thus, how do you see anybody replacing him if that's the case?
See, it's interesting that you said of course, because I knew another indie film was coming out, which we already talked about a few shows ago, and it's many years down the road, right? So to compose and conduct a score, you have to see the film with the special effects. I would assume Laird Mallon would know about that more than I would, but you have to have it up there. So the film needs to be completed. If he's 84 now, he's going to be 86, 87, 88 years old by the time it's in the can. And what's encouraging to me, my grandma's 98 and she just gave up her license a few months ago. So you can do it. It can absolutely be done. You take care of yourself, and you're smart with what you ingest in your body and the amount of sleep you get. And suddenly it's became a fitness podcast for some unusual reason. But I think now that I know, if he says I would love to do it, I guess that shouldn't surprise me. It just means that if he is capable and they want him, and they obviously would, then he's going to do it. So I think it's wonderful. It is going to be interesting when Rogue One comes out that Williams is not going to be involved with that one. So that'll be a whole new way to kind of look at Star Wars and music. But to be fair, Kevin Kiner has done so much Star Wars work. He's done way more Star Wars work than John Williams has with the Clone Wars and Rebels. So it's been done, and it will be done beautifully, but there's nothing quite like John Williams. So we are excited about this, and I assume there'll be more official stuff on this later.
For our next news story, it has to do with Celebration Europe, taking place on July 15th through the 17th in London. And unfortunately, Dan and I are unable to go this time around, but we're excited to hear all the things coming out of that. And it's wonderful to hear, again, that they're looking to do an exclusive exhibit for Rogue One for some of the props and the costumes. Dan, I remember walking through the props and costumes section at Celebration Anaheim for The Force Awakens, and how that was just jaw-dropping.
That was one of my favorite experiences about it. We went through that with Mike Pilot and Brian Young from Full of Sith, and we had an absolute ball, and we're blown away. That I remember seeing the costume for Finn, and seeing on not just on the costume itself, but there was a little image underneath it.
Yeah, conceptual art.
Yeah, conceptual art, and it had a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And that was when I first thought, oh, he's going to have a lightsaber. I can't imagine he's going to be a Jedi. What's this about? Is he holding it for someone? Those things go through your mind. But I don't air them on the air because I'm not a speculation gentleman, as you know. But this is my advice for people who are going to be in Celebration London. Go to this first. Don't get me wrong, go to the main panel first, because I'll most likely have some really cool stuff to announce about Rogue One and who knows what else. But after you see the first main stage event, I would race to the props thing. And the reason is, besides being awesome and having something to kind of fill your cup right off the bat, that entire Celebration Anaheim, after the first day, that line was ridiculously long. You know what I mean? And I mean that in the best possible way. It was 2-3 hours long, and I can't imagine it'll be any different for Rogue One.
Right. I mean, that's the other thing, too. It's funny because I remember walking around with Mike Pilot and Brian Young and talking with them, and I feel like we just kind of just popped into that exhibit just because it would just happen to be in our vicinity. It wasn't necessarily on our radar a whole lot. I mean, or that I remember. And just waiting in line was fun, and we got right in, and it was just I was like, oh, I didn't expect this to be as intricate as it was. It had Kylo Ren's whole full costume and his lightsaber hilt and Stormtrooper stuff. It was just whoa, this is really awesome. I mean, it was museum quality, too. I want to say, too, is it wasn't just oh, we're going to throw up some pieces of clothing that, somebody might wear. No, this was fully formed stuff. their poses and stuff, and get to see everything. We were looking at Rey's as well, looking at her, some of her, her staff there, and wondering if maybe there was something going on with that as far as having a lightsaber in it or whatnot. Obviously, that's not true anymore, but it's so cool to see that stuff and kind of speculate in your own mind, but also have a good time, make memories along with it as well. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that.
Well, hello there again, my Coffee with Kenobi friends. This is Nick DiCo with your monthly video game update for June 2016. And let's jump right in. Lots of stuff have been going down since the last month we talked, including all new information about upcoming games coming out of Electronic Arts for the rest of the year and up until 2018. I'm going to touch base on what's come out of E3, including some stuff you want to check out before the month is over. And I'll wrap up really quickly today with just telling you about some stuff that I would do over the summer if you had some free time to play some video games, which hopefully you definitely do. First, let's talk about Battlefronts, the biggest game on the market currently, is releasing a new DLC, downloadable content for folks for all platforms for Bespin. Most of this stuff is occurring on the lovely Cloud City atmosphere that you have from Empire Strikes Back, with two new heroes, Lando Calrissian, voiced by the wonderful Billy D. Williams, and Dengar the Bounty Hunter. If you don't know who Dengar is, you're probably not alone if you're not a diehard Star Wars fan. So, side note once again, this feels like perhaps a little bit of a letdown for those of us that were hoping for some deeper villain, much like with the first release for Outer Rim, we got Greedo and Nien Nunb. But for what it looks like, Dengar and Lando will be bringing in some new stuff for the game, some different weapons, some different takes on what it means to be a hero in the Star Wars universe. And despite my detractions about having Dengar instead of, I don't know, say IG-88 or Bosk, it's the first look into a character that probably needs some more fleshing out in the Star Wars universe. So I will look at this glass half full instead of half empty when it comes to the new Star Wars villains in Battlefront. Also in Battlefront, we see new vehicles, the Cloud City car, and we see the Royal Imperial Guards actually as a playable skin, so you can dress yourself up in all red if you'd like to do so while you're running around Cloud City, and also some of the Cloud City police force that we see hanging out, helping Lando in Empire Strikes Back take on the Empire. So there is not much else to report right now, seeing as the game was just released for Season Pass holders today, June 21st. I myself won't get a chance to get a handle on it probably until the next few weeks or so, when I finally get these kids to sleep, or I learn just to play Battlefront at 4 o'clock in the morning. Either way, hopefully I'll get to play it soon. Also coming out of E3, we saw a really fantastic 8-minute video of the upcoming Star Wars games coming out of Electronic Arts. If you haven't done so yet, just Google search Star Wars E3, and I promise you the YouTube video or something will pop up and you'll get a chance to see everything that EA has kind of put into a new trailer about the video games they're working on between now and 2018. 2018 being the release date for the new Visceral game. That's going to be an action-adventure based upon something going on in Tatooine, and that's really all we know, which is some concept art right now. We've also saw that the Respawn game will be third person, based upon a new timeline in the Star Wars universe. Not something we've seen quite yet, so perhaps maybe a mix-up of in between the Star Wars movies, much like the new anthology series is going to be, stuff that we might have heard about, but nothing that's been fleshed out yet. So nothing concrete about the Respawn game, but we do know it'll be the third person with a new timeline. So that should be pretty cool. Also, if you look closely in that trailer, you do see some concept art around the Millennium Falcon in a space battle. My hope is that is around something for Battlefront, as that's what fans have been craving for the past, I don't know, year for that game. So hopefully that is the case, but I will hold my breath, but not too long. So we covered a little bit about the new games coming out, but what about the current ones at E3? We did learn more about Battlefront 1, we'll call it. We will see the last downloadable content released this year in 2016. So originally that DLC was not to be released until the beginning of 2017. This just lends more, I think, validity to the fact that this will probably be tied to Rogue One. So we know we have Outer Rim, we have Bespin, and we'll have the Death Star DLC sometime in the fall. it's safe to say, if you're a gambling man, if you're taking your credits to the Sobek table, they say that this is going to be about Rogue One for the last downloadable content for Battlefront, and that is at least that's where I would put my credits on if I was a gambling man, or if I was perhaps Han Solo or Lando. But that being said, we will see. It's exciting because that means we'll get more gameplay and more things around this first game. We're not having even to wait till Battlefront 2, which we know is coming down the pipeline sometime in the near future. So we'll get a ton of new content just in 2016 alone for what is currently the largest platformer game in the Star Wars universe. That being said, we also learned that we will get some virtual reality out of Star Wars for the PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4 will get a exclusive X-Wing missions, which we have a short 30-second trailer out of E3-4. Check it out; looks really cool. But if you're like me with the Xbox, or if you're on the PC, guess we'll have to shell out an additional $500 to $1,000 just to play that game, unless you have some really close friends that have the PS4 and you can convince to buy the VR stuff. Perhaps it's just ramen for everybody for quite a while so we can play these games. But that is the news that has happened just in the month of June from E3 and just from the chatter around the internet. But I want to leave you guys this month with a little bit of Nick's summer recommendations to spend some time playing some video games. Put down the podcasts. Okay, maybe don't put down the podcasts. In addition to them, don't put down the books, because there's some great books out. So when you get some free time, or if you are looking for something new to play and you are a gamer and you haven't tried it yet, I will recommend Star Wars Uprising for the mobile platform. It is actually a canon story based upon the events immediately after the fall of the second Death Star, with characters, with two characters the story is revolving around, brother and sister pairing, Tam and Riley. The fun part about this game is that it is a canon story. These characters are in the canon. It is made by the company Kabam, so it's not made by EA, which is kind of different and fun for a change. And it's a shooter game, but it's also a game where you get to make your own characters. You get to choose from four different species to start off with for your own personal character, what they look like, and you run through the gamut of being kind of a smuggler / bounty hunter, and what it is to be in the ANOVOS system after the fall of the second Death Star, which we've learned after that the Empire came down with an iron fist, and they kind of just said, no, the Empire is alive. The Emperor is alive. That never happened. The Death Star was not destroyed. And so you get to see the world from the view of civilians and folks trying to make a living, both on the outsides of society's laws, but also inside too, and what the planets were like, and how politicians and politics played after Endor. So it actually is it's a fun game. It does take up a lot of space in your phone. It is definitely a gigabyte's worth of data, if not more, as you start building more stuff into it. So make sure that you got some extra space to spare before you try to download it. But it's definitely a long game. I give it 1.5 thumbs up, if that's possible. So maybe Obi-Wan saw me and I lost an arm and now I have half a thumb or something like that. But if I could, I'd give it 1.5 thumbs up. It's really enjoyable, but it definitely takes a lot of time and effort to get further on once you start leveling your character up. So be prepared to spend some hard quality time with this game. But it's definitely, hey, if you're going to the beach, you're taking a vacation, you got some long delays at the airport, or you're just looking for something else to do to get your Star Wars fix over the summer, invest some time in Uprising. I think it'll be worth your while. Outside of that, if you have some time with some platformers, go ahead and jump on now. The demo is available for Nima Outpost for Lego The Force Awakens. I jumped into that just briefly last week, and it's a lot of fun. It looks so much crisper than the old Lego games, if that's even possible. It's got new gameplay to it. You can actually make different things when you're creating something out of a Lego pile, instead of just choosing one predetermined pile of a predetermined outcome for that Lego pile. And you get in the demo, you get to be BB-8, so I'm sold. And that's just the demo I played. The game doesn't come out until the end of June, so perhaps by the time you're listening to this, the game has already been out. But you can download the demo for all the major platforms and just whet your appetite before you jump on in. If you have pre-ordered it, some places have special pre-order packs. So if you hear this before the due date of June 28th for the game, maybe look into pre-ordering it for $1 or so and getting some free stuff along with it. That's always fun to do. So those are my 2 summer recommendations in listening with the podcast and reading all the fun Star Wars books and comic books that are out there. Or maybe you're just going to jump on all the video games when you have the time, and you'll pick up podcasts again sometime in the fall. Hopefully not. Just kidding. Hopefully not. So that is my June update for Video Games Come Star Wars. We'll have lots more stuff to talk about in the fall, and especially as usual closer to the Christmas holidays, as Star Wars looks to double down even more after Celebration Europe and everything that's going on there around the video game population that we have created for ourselves here in the Star Wars galaxy. So with that, my friends, thank you again, and may the Force be with you.
Han Solo, Rebel Soldier, Lando Calrissian, and Bespin Guard, each sold separately. From Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back Collection, new from Kenner.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say, Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
For our first collector's news segment, now this came out in early June, but we haven't got a chance to talk about it on the show yet. But there's a company called Prop Shop, and they're working in collaboration with Lucasfilm. They're making official prop replicas of the work from The Force Awakens, and there's quite a little laundry list, and there's a link in the show notes which shows the video that was released with this press release. But it's pretty remarkable. I mean, they are taking the original sculpts from the film, and they are making these things available to people. It's exact same way the original props are made, 3D prints, the final output, all hand painted by the original prop makers. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. I mean, think about that. I mean, imagine if they did that for the Ark of the Covenant.
True, that's interesting. I didn't expect that, but yeah, that's cool.
Now, look at the wave. Go ahead and read the list for me of everything that they're releasing.
Yeah, so they've got like these. It's basically some of the helmets from the films. We'll talk about the Kylo Ren, Poe Dameron's helmet, the melted Vader mask. We have Finn's mask with the red bloody streaks on there. Chewbacca's bowcaster, Kylo Ren's lightsaber hilt, and Luke Skywalker's lightsaber hilt, and then Rey's staff. So it's pretty cool. I mean, these are unique items, I think, but I'm curious to know too. You've got some of the lightsabers, the
master replicas.
Replicas. Is this kind of on par with that, or is it something different?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the one, and you listed it as Luke's, and it is Luke's, but they listed it here in the official one as Rey's lightsaber, which is kind of interesting.
That's interesting.
Did you see that? Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Cool. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I would have to look at it and see, but it certainly is an incredibly ambitious project, and I sort of knew that they were going to do something like this because there's like different marketing things that Lucasfilm does, and they had mentioned something about what kind of price points would be legitimate for something like this, and what are the prices on these things? Do you have any idea? I'm clicking on it right now. We're kind of looking around. I see them. Yeah,
I'm gonna guess. Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead and guess.
I'm gonna go like $350. Is that
$350?
Yeah, $350.
Add a couple of zeros on that, my friend.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah. Well, that makes sense too. I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's high quality stuff made by the people who crafted these for the film.
Right.
The most expensive one. What do you think is the most expensive one? You've got 4 weapons and you've got 4 helmets. What do you think is the most expensive?
So the most expensive helmet or most expensive weapon?
Both.
Out of all of them?
Yeah, of the 4, the Vader helmet.
I'm gonna go Vader helmet.
You're correct. That's $3,500.
My goodness.
Now I think that's neat, but if I'm going to spend $3,500 on a Darth Vader helmet, it's going to be the full one, not going to be this melted one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just me. The FN 2187 helmet, and they differentiate that because it's got the blood streak on it. I don't know that I would want the helmet with the blood streak on it, but it just seems a bit macabre, but maybe that's just the parent in me. I don't know, but I think it's cool. That's $1,750. Kylo Ren's helmet is $2,000. Poe's helmet is $1,500. It's pretty sharp, but
yeah.
Now let's go to the. You're not cheating, are you, Corey?
No, go ahead.
Okay, good. So tell me, what do you think the most expensive of the lightsabers and Chewie's gun and the Rey staff?
I'm gonna go with the bowcaster.
You got it.
Wow, that's awesome.
You did this.
Well, I was thinking about it too. It's like, I mean, the intricate detail on it, obviously it's a larger piece, larger item. A lot more work goes into it. The saber hilts are a little bit more smaller in size and whatnot. But I mean, the details there. I'm looking at the photos now.
It's crazy cool.
I think it'd be cool. I always thought it'd be cool to have like a lightsaber like encased somehow, and you could have it like in your office or something, and have a light underneath or something. Something like that would be cool. I think to have. I mean, this is obviously a large price point for me, but I think it's something up there I wouldn't mind, having.
Well, the bowcaster, Chewie's bowcaster, is $2,500, and both lightsabers and Rey staff are $1,250. Mm-hmm. So none of them are cheap. None of them are for the faint of heart financially.
Right.
But they're lovely collectibles. I mean, they are. I mean, you mentioned museum quality, but they are. They're above that because they were used in the film. So they're like as close as it's going to come. I mean, the fact that the people who work on the films are creating these is pretty fantastic. If money were no object,
sure,
you could get one helmet and one of the weapons. Which ones would you get?
Oh, that's tough. I think I'd do like I think I would go with the Kylo Ren helmet.
Okay.
It's interesting. Besides the other ones, I think if I was to choose, yeah. And then I would go with, I guess, Rey's lightsaber, because it's just got so much history on it.
Well, yeah, it's Luke's and Anakin's, and
I almost said Luke's again, but yeah, it's a really nice piece.
It's hard for me to say that that's Rey's lightsaber because she had it for 5 seconds. It's because that's so iconic with Luke. But
sure,
I mean, if that's going to be the one that she's going to use, that's pretty fantastic.
What about you, my friend?
Well, I would get Poe's helmet, and I would get Kylo Ren's lightsaber. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I like the look of it. I like the black and the red. It's pretty neat. I like it's got the little mouthpiece for communication with other ships. And Kylo Ren's, I already have Anakin's lightsaber, and it's from mass replica, which they don't make them anymore, but I love it. And they're all neat, but Kylo Ren's is just so unique.
Sure. Yeah.
And I remember seeing that at Celebration Anaheim, under glass, and I thought, wow, that thing is awesome, and it looks very. You could do a lot. You could do a whole show on the construction of that thing, how much it tells you about him based on how this thing is built. I think too.
So the question would be, would you wear a Poe's helmet?
Maybe just say, "Hey, honey, look at this." She would laugh at me and say I was weird and tell me to get out of here.
You could filter,
and she would be in her right to do so.
You could put a microphone in there. It could be your podcasting helmet.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there you go. And I'd probably have it displayed because it's pretty cool.
There you go. Very cool. For next collector's news, we have a new item coming from ANOVOS, the First Order Stormtrooper armor. Pretty fantastic stuff. I remember seeing this in Anaheim Celebration Anaheim on display. It wasn't for sale at the time. But they had a really, cool standee of it. And it was the kind of the first time we'd seen this new order Stormtrooper armor. I think it's very cool. And of course, ANOVOS is guaranteed awesomeness. I mean, right?
Right. Yeah. I love that I can look at it and think, oh, I've got the original Trooper armor, which I've talked about ad nauseum on other
exactly
shows.
Right.
So how much these cost, dude?
This, you want to take a stab at guessing, or do you want me to?
It would be disingenuous because I have the price point right in front of me.
So you would cheat.
I have the press release in front. Yeah, no, I'm not going to cheat. That's why I'm telling you I can't take a stab at it.
Yeah.
But it's pricey.
It is pricey. So if folks looking to order this or get in touch with ANOVOS for this, it's going to be $6,915 and 0 cents. So if
that's right.
If you have $6,916, you're probably okay.
Well, there you go. And that doesn't include shipping, by the way.
Oh, that's interesting.
Does not. Yeah.
Okay.
And now this one, what's different from the original trilogy Stormtrooper armor and the Force Awakens First Order one, is this one comes with the boots, and you may be thinking, well, okay, I mean, what's the big deal? It is a big deal. Finding the actual boots is tricky. For the original trilogy one, there are certain companies that do it, but they didn't offer that with their original kit. So that would be if it's completely ready to go and you could just take it out of the box and put it on. But they have the kit with the helmet and boots also, which is also a pre-order. That one will set you back $2,225. But ANOVOS is offering something different. Corey, did you see this?
No, I did not.
They have a payment plan now.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't have the money just sitting in your, in your pocket, you can click on the option for partial pay. and your initial down payment is $669 to reserve it, and then you can pick 3 months of a flexible payment plan or just 1 month flexible. And if you do the 3 month, it's $520.34 for 3 months. Does that make it any more reasonable to you?
You know, it's interesting because it does help if somebody's looking to want, like, this is on the top of their list, right? And they want to be able to, fit this into their budget. I think it's interesting to be able to do a payment plan and get your hands on it, and be able to get something that's a screen quality, obviously, that looks great, and you can be conscientious about how much you're paying out of your pocket off the top. Right. So I will mention too, it says here the costume design to fit a person that's between 5 feet 8 inches and 6 feet. So it's a no-go for me. I'm 6'1", pal.
There you go. Well, so then all your dreams are crushed.
I'm a little tall for a stormtrooper, I guess.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. How clever of you.
Yeah, well, it's too bad.
I love it. Yeah, well, that's if it was in your height range, how tall, sir, would that make a difference?
Ever since you've been talking about the one you've got from ANOVOS, the classic Stormtrooper costume, I'm a little bit jealous. Now, if I was to go out and just choose another costume that they supply or whatnot, I'd probably go a little more, I don't know. This one is pretty sleek, I will say. I mean, I do love it. It looks really great. And obviously by now we've all seen it a million times, and it does stand out. It looks really great.
Someday I think it'd be cool to have both of them, but as for right now, because it's wonderful. It's a little pricey for where I am willing to spend money now. I mean, we got Celebration coming up.
Sure.
In Orlando next year, not to mention the fact that we both have families and children that we want to keep happy and well fed and homed and warm or cool as the case may be. So if you are one of the fortunate ones that decide you want to take the chance, I think the payment thing does make it a lot more reasonable, and I love that ANOVOS is offering this. One of the things they did mention is before they had tiered pricing, if you bought or purchased the armor within a certain time frame, it was cheaper, and then as they got closer and closer, it would get a little more pricey. So now the price is the same, but you can do payment plans, so that's pretty cool. For our next collector's news story, we have the Darth Vader life-size vintage monument, Corey Club. It's the Kenner-inspired Darth Vader. It's digitally scanned from an authentic mint condition 3 3/4 inch action figure, and it's 6 feet tall. It's as tall as you, buddy.
That's great. I could dance with it.
You could raise the hands and you could do like a slow dance. Is that what you were thinking?
It could be a slow dance, and he could just watch where his hands are going. That's all.
Yeah, this is totally not creepy at all. They had made the Stormtrooper one like this. And did they make a Boba Fett one? I can't remember. Do you remember?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I don't know.
It's the real deal. It's even got the cape, the plastic cape, which I love. And it's got the telescoping lightsaber in the right hand. And the Darth Vader Kenner action figure. I actually have a 3 3/4 one in mint on card, which I'm pretty pumped about. So that's neat. But this is a stunner. Honestly, if all things being equal, it was between this and the ANOVOS armor, which one do you think I would pick?
You'd pick this, for sure.
Yes, I would. I absolutely would. What about you?
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked about the replicas, and then the ANOVOS armor, and now this. And so, these prices are obviously, for a certain folks that are looking for this stuff. I mean...
Yeah, they're elite.
They're elite, for sure. I mean, but I think if it's the top of your list, I mean, there it is. I mean, it's been created so you can get it, but... if I'm to choose, I don't know if I'd necessarily choose a 6-foot action figure.
But you would pick this over the armor, or would you pick the armor?
I'd pick the armor, probably.
Because you can wear it.
You can wear it, and you can display it. This harkens back to obviously the Kenner line of action figures, which I didn't grow up to it, so I can't. It's hard for me to relate with. So Jeff McGee's a big collector. I know he gets all this kind of stuff too. So,
yes.
Well, you guys would be more under that umbrella, I guess.
Oh man, if I had that money tree in the back, I would be all over this like stink on a monkey.
Oh boy,
it's very, very cool. And actually, it sounds like I'm being silly, and I am, I guess, a little bit. But there is free shipping.
There you go.
And the shipping for the armor is like $100 or more.
That's not too bad.
That's. I mean, I don't get anything from Amazon that costs $100 to ship.
It's true. But you're also not ordering Stormtrooper armor, so.
Not anymore. Already got mine.
Right. So the Vader figure, are we calling it a figure or monument? Is it?
Well, it's a life-size vintage monument, and I for all the diehards out there, I mentioned the cape was plastic. Technically, it's considered rescaled vinyl, so I want to make sure I had that correct.
Okay.
So I love it. It's neat.
Yeah, the price point on this is $2,600.
So. Yeah, we didn't mention that. That's why we're not going to get it.
Yeah.
Now, if Gentle Giant wants to send us one to review, we are graciously happy to, of course, do such a thing. And that's not going to happen, by the way, because I mean, why would you? This sells itself. You don't really need to review something like this. It's a gorgeous item. It really is. When I was at Lucasfilm in the gift shop, they have the Stormtrooper one.
Oh, cool!
And as I walked by, I'm like, oh, there's the life-size Stormtrooper action figure. But I didn't take the time to really kind of drink it in because I was in the Lucasfilm gift shop and my head was spinning all over the place like the Tasmanian devil anyway. But it's neat. It's really cool. I hope if any of our listeners get one that they send us some pics or something because it's really, really cool. And it'll look great on a Christmas card with your family, wouldn't
it? That's right. This is Darth in the background. Yeah, that's all. For our next bit of collector's news, we've got something a little more personal on our side of things. I know when we first started the podcast, Dan and I were talking about all kinds of great guests and topics to talk about. One of the things that came up was T-shirts for the show, and as we kind of geeked out about that and having that a possibility, it is a possibility. You can go online and go to our website and navigate to our TeePublic store and purchase one of those shirts. But now what's interesting, we kind of had some issues up front when we first started designing the logo itself. Has that kind of that orange color, that rebel orange I like to call it. And they were unavailable. That color was unavailable, Dan, and it was difficult for us to kind of get those out there. Originally, we went with a company that you kind of had to fund your T-shirt and get so many orders in before that could be printed, and we got that. It was successful, but it was only for a few folks, and unfortunately, we couldn't get that color out anymore. But now, TeePublic is offering that orange colored shirt.
I'm thrilled that we can actually talk about this because everyone who would ask us about the shirts would say, where's orange? You have it in orange. And I knew that we would be able to have more out there in the public. And I love it. I mean, I still have mine from the original
Me too.
service that we did, and I wear it all the time. It's a beautiful shirt. I love the logo that you did. And we had different colors you could use, and a lot of people have them. And Mediocre Jedi has one that's kind of a navy tan, not navy, but it's like a brownish tan, and he makes it look awesome because he is awesome, right?
That's right.
But we didn't have orange, and now we do. And by the way, for the record, Mediocre Jedi has ordered an orange one. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Yes, very awesome. We're happy that they are out there, and that you can get one. It's at the very top of our webpage. We'll have a link to it in the show notes. We're thrilled. It's a great looking shirt, and all thanks again to Corey for designing it. The award-winning logo.
That's right. Yeah,
that's right.
Well, I was going to say too. I mean, get out there and get yours before Celebration London, and show it off there.
That's right. Let's flood the place with Rebel Orange.
There you go.
If we can't be there, let's have the orange there. There's a hashtag, right? It's very jumbled, but it works.
CWK Orange, is that?
Sure. Oh, there you go. Hashtag CWK Orange. If you are a huge Star Wars fan, and let's face it, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, and if you love collecting Star Wars, the Star Wars Card Trader app from Topps is for you.
The best part, the Star Wars Card Trader app features incredible images from the original trilogy, the prequels, the Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Force Awakens. Every era you love is included on the app.
It's easy and a lot of fun, too. Beloved characters, key scenes, and unforgettable moments are in every pack. Open the app every day and get free credits to spend on card packs from the Cantina, trade with your friends, and make new ones along the way as you continue to add to your Star Wars collection. And it's all free.
The variety makes it fun, too. So chase what you love. Some of the latest packs include poster series, classic comic book series, helmet variety packs, and so much more. There are even exclusive cards you can get by completing sets, as well as special inserts and even autograph opportunities. Don't worry about missing the cards you love either, as you sign up for notifications right on the app.
The Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps can be downloaded for free from iTunes or Google Play. Be sure to download the app and start your collection today.
The Star Wars digital card trader app from Topps is available now. And remember, these are the cards you're looking for.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
I must be allowed to speak.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
Our topic for show number 55 is a closer look at Finn, Rey, and Poe Dameron. The new big three of Star Wars has become instantly beloved, and we want to look at what makes them tick. How are they foils for one another? How do they enhance one another? And how do their inner conflicts impact the overall story? Joining us on this topic is all-around Star Wars aficionado, Amy Ratcliffe. Amy is a go-to writer and personality for all things awesome, is a member of the Coffee with Kenobi family, is the co-host of Lattes with Leia, and is one of the stage hosts for Celebration London. Welcome back, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's been a while, huh?
It has been. I think the last time was right before Anaheim.
Oh, yeah. So I was like, that was over a year ago. My goodness.
I know, isn't that wild? But
yes, it is.
But we've been very fortunate to be able to hear from you every month on Lattes with Leia, and that has been going so well, and the buzz on that has been just tremendous. And what was it like working with one of your dear friends talking about Star Wars like this?
Oh my goodness. I mention this to Drea every time we record, that I always want to thank you and Corey for giving us this kind of outlet to talk about Star Wars, because it's stuff we kind of talk about on our own anyway, but to have a reason to get together every month and sit down and catch up about, we record, but we also catch up on life things. But it's just a fun discourse with her. I respect Drea so much she's so smart and has so many insightful things. And she's one of my best friends. So it's a real delight to get to record that show, and I'm glad people respond to it.
And it's so fun. It's even intriguing, just what you two say you're drinking. Everyone gets such a charge out of that. I love it.
I know, and we've yet to have lattes, and I think that's just going to have to be a thing at this point.
I agree. It's a good thing. But we haven't really, Corey and I were trying to come up with a topic for this episode, and we've talked about The Force Awakens aplenty, naturally, but not really in the kind of detail that we normally would. So I think enough time has passed, clearly. So we're going to look at Finn and Rey and Poe, and I want to ask both of you, how do you think these three mirror and enhance one another throughout the story of The Force Awakens? And Amy, let's start with you.
Oh, that's such a good question. I like their friendship, and I like the way they push each other. So I think Poe is kind of on his own. You know what? That's not true, though, because he helps Finn out. I like that. I'm getting all over the place because I really like all three of these characters, but I really like when Finn drags him out of being interrogated, right? And he's all trying to be like, I'm doing the right thing. And Finn's like, no, you need a pilot. I like that immediately he sets that, I'm not buying your BS. It's fine. I'm on board. Let's get out of here. And I think that says so much about who Poe is and establishes him and Finn. I feel like they have such a bond so instantly, and not just because Finn kind of gets him out of serious trouble, but that Poe kind of makes him open his eyes and contributes to what Finn's already going through as far as questioning the First Order. And then meeting Rey and BB-8, I think as much as the story centers on Rey, that Finn is only slightly secondary as far as what he's going through and how his perspective changes. And I think Rey informs a lot of that.
I agree. I think it's fair to say she's sort of the lens that everything kind of focuses through anyway. And Corey, what about you? How do they mirror and enhance one another?
Yeah, it's interesting thinking back to, having come so far, having seen the film numerous times now, and kind of reflecting on it moving forward. I feel like they're good friends. We get to know them so well, and having known them for different applications as far as books and comics and things here and there, getting to know them better too. It's interesting because in the film itself, they all kind of are looking for something. Finn is looking for a new way to be able to, find himself a little bit, and doesn't necessarily want to do what he set out to do or been asked to do. And Rey obviously is looking for her understanding of her world, where she's going to, where she's going to end up. And, it's interesting because they mirror each other in the fact that they're all young and looking kind of for their way in this universe. And we see, like you said, Dan, Rey is kind of the one we see the most because she has the most screen time. And but I think I guess I argue a little bit too, because Finn is also, you can kind of follow him along too and see where he comes from and see how he kind of argues with himself and kind of has to push himself to do certain things, but yet they enhance each other. And Amy brought up the idea of stealing a TIE fighter up to escape, and they're looking to Poe is looking to help Finn out, and just gives him a name right off the bat, and just it really helps him kind of boost through that moment and get over his anxiety and get through that mission. And the same thing, Finn pushes that in Rey as well when they're escaping through the desert of Jakku there. So it's interesting too. It's a fact that not every one of them are necessarily know where they're going, but yet they're going all together, just by pushing each other and, like you said, mirroring each other as they discover where they're supposed to be.
And can I jump in really quick and point out or bounce off something Corey said?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
He made a good point about, Poe gave Finn a name. Poe was was the first person to recognize FN 2187 as an individual instead of a trained soldier who's just another number, which it's a big deal.
It's a colossally huge deal. Naming is such an important thing. I mean, the first thing you do when you have a child is you name the child. There's a relationship there that is formed, and he's not a number. He's not a soldier. He's a human being. He's got emotions. He's well-rounded. And Poe looks at that, and I think that helps him to kind of continue on his journey, clearly, to want to be someone different. And I wrote about this on StarWars.com, but I love that he even literally sheds his skin, sheds his armor as he's walking on Jakku to become a new person. I just think that's quite poignant and lovely. And I think
smart, because, man, that armor probably does not breathe.
Right. Yes, it does not. It does not. I can vouch that. Not the first order kind, but yeah. So, and I think that they enhance one another because I think we saw in the Before the Awakening, which I really highly recommend. I know you've both read it. You see them individually on your own. I think Poe has the most fleshed out backstory, and I think that's by design because you can play with that. You can play with stuff with the Resistance because it's not going to give away anything for upcoming films. And real quickly, who do the three of you like? Let's just for fun rank them in order that you were drawn to them from 1 to 3.
Ooh, that's hard.
and you can change it when episodes 8 and 9 come out, but for right now, we can. I'll go first if that
you go ahead.
Alleviates the tension.
Yes, you go first.
For me, it's quite easy. It's Rey and then Finn and then Poe. And that's not because Poe, I don't like Poe. I just think Poe, there's the least about him. Most of the appeal to me of Poe is the fact that it's Oscar Isaac. Yeah. And he's got the Han Solo charm, but he's not anything like Han Solo, which is really refreshing because as Freddie said in our last show, you can't make everybody Han Solo or nobody's Han Solo because he's not unique. So that would be my list.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is as a fan, I really struck out and liked Poe right away. Seeing Oscar Isaac, his interview at Anaheim, him just talking about the character got me jazzed up. I like the promotional items and stuff coming out. I got excited about that. But then I really fell in love with Finn, seeing him on the screen. And just, his enduring character, his good-heartedness. But then I think I'm going to rank them like this. Rey, Finn, and Poe.
So same, yeah.
Yeah, Rey to me, she's just a dazzling light. I mean, I just can't get over the fact that I even see Daisy Ridley online, she'll post a photo and her smile just I don't know, it just makes me smile. And I think it's interesting that her character is so dynamic, and we'll get to more of that, I know, but I think that's my ranking.
I think a dazzling light is such a good way to describe her because I do really feel like she just radiates positivity and hope as Rey and as Daisy, like in real life.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be similar, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. I would do Rey, Poe, and Finn, and I'm putting Poe above Finn because did you see that amazing maneuver he pulled above Takodana?
Yes.
Finn's got some good things going. I know he has an interesting story, and he's turning away from a horrible life to find a new way for himself, but just on that alone, I'm going to put Poe above him.
You know, and as soon as I opened my mouth and said, "Oh, this will be easy for me," I thought, "Oh crap, it's not easy," because I almost went the way you did, Amy. And to me, I'm basing it. I guess I'm ranking it. I'm basing it purely on the film. But if I look at everything, including the comics in the book, I would say I would probably rank Poe too. But it's too late. It's already out there. I can't change it.
So what's more interesting about Finn is he's unique to Star Wars and he feels the most contemporary. How is this a strength and how is this a potential distraction for him?
I feel like, as much as I laughed, for example, like one way he's contemporary are, I think his one-liners and the comments kind of Finn makes are not, I don't think they're classic Star Wars, because Finn saying, hell no, that's not, when I saw that in the trailer, I think I was like, oh, wait, what? That's not a Star Wars-y thing you hear. Maybe you've heard it once before. Oh, you have heard it once before on Hoth. But some of that stuff, I like I said, I laughed, but it was a little bit of a distraction. But afterwards, I'm like, I feel like those lines were like a wink wink to the millennials that made me feel a little old.
Yeah, I will say too, for Finn, my perspective of his contemporary atmosphere is like he seems to come to the saga in a way that, you know, you missaid Amy. He has lines like, well, that's not how let's use the Force to do this, get this done. And it's like, that's not how it works. You know, he's like he's kind of discovering these things along the way as far as him making discoveries of himself. You know, he's sort of trying to find himself, but yet he's trying to figure out what's going on along the way. He seems like he's like a new fan that just discovered Star Wars, and they're like, oh, this is really awesome. I don't know what to do next, you know. So I think it's fun for him. But I think it's interesting because he's contemporary to the fact that he kind of has this like he's at this good speech, and John Boyega does a good job of bringing out this personality of kind of like he's strong the way that he is like taking action and such, but yet his heart is making all those actions and everything he does. Like when they go to rescue Rey, and he's gonna figure out where she's at, and she ends up right behind them, and you know him, you know, taking her hand all those times, and him just looking out for her. I think that's really unique for his character.
See, I see when we came up with this question, I loved Finn from the get-go because I think he's compelling. I mean, he's the first image we literally saw on the original trailer from Black Friday. So right away, there's something about him I think is intriguing, and I do love. I think Amy nailed it perfectly. He's not classic Star Wars, and I can see where that would kind of throw people. And I've heard some complaints here and there. They've been very, very minor complaints. I think that was almost necessary for a modern audience to have sort of a lens for the modern audience to experience this film, because it is, you know, so much later than 1977, clearly. But I don't know. I don't think he's a distraction. I think that he's the least Star Wars-y of all the characters. And again, this is only based on one film. You know, who knows what we'll be saying about this in 5 years.
Well, and can I say, too, that I guess even with his little comments, sometimes it threw me off. Corey made a point about him being kind of like a new fan. Like, like, look at that enthusiasm. Like, that's really hard not to find appealing in a character. And like this, he's just on board and jumping in and being really adorable about it, basically.
So we talked about Finn. Let's talk about Rey. She's arguably, I think, the most dynamic character in The Force Awakens, and it's not like there's going to be a debate on Stars.com about who's more powerful in The Force, Rey or Kylo Ren. That wouldn't happen.
No, that would be a weird thing to talk about.
That would be weird. So she's arguably the most dynamic, but what kind of dynamic does she bring to this franchise? So we've had dynamic characters in Star Wars before, and I think it's more than the fact that she's a female lead. There's just, that's an aspect of it, but there's so much more. And honestly, as I said at the top of the show, you two did such a beautiful job of this on Lattes with Leia anyway. So,
and thank you, by the way, for the kind words. That was really important for Dre and I to cover in our first topic on Lattes with Leia was Rey, because coming off of The Force Awakens, because we recorded that in January, she was just so important to both of us as far as her role in the universe, and to be a female fan and to see a woman in the lead of a Star Wars movie in a different way, because people immediately be like, what about Princess Leia? I'm like, guys, I know, I respect that. I respect Padme, but Rey is the lead. That is a different, she is not secondary. This story is her story. And what I admire about her, and I think how she affects all of The Force Awakens and anybody she runs into, is her resilience. This is a woman, she's 19-ish by the time we meet her, who's been left on a planet alone, a really harsh planet. This isn't some friendly place like Theed, Naboo, or Coruscant, where there are multiple resources. It's a desert planet where survival only comes to the people who are most resourceful and most capable. And you get a sense of how she's literally scrapped for her living, doing scavenging and things, but also like just fighting and protecting your property. And if you read, I think it was before The Awakening, where you find, she has this story where she kind of found, I forget what kind of ship it was, but in pretty good shape. And her plan is to team up with some people, repair this ship, and use that money. I don't know if she planned to get off the planet with it or if that she was just going to get 5,000 million portions or whatever. I can't remember. But the point was, in the end, these people screwed her. Mm-hmm. And so we know she's had experiences like that. We know she's had a hard life. And look how trusting and open she is. I think that's remarkable that somebody can, I haven't gone through, even a quarter of those things, and I'm a bitter old woman. So I can't, so I think that's what she brings to the galaxy, is just people can look at her story, fans and people she meets, and be like, what, you're from Jakku? Like, shouldn't you? I think she surprises everybody with how hopeful she is. And I think that just trickles through, not trickles, makes a ripple, I guess, that reaches out far into, just The Force Awakens, and I can't wait to see what happens in Episode 8.
Absolutely. And perhaps an even more intriguing way to look at this is, how does Princess Leia in A New Hope reflect the time and culture versus Rey in The Force Awakens and her time and culture in which this film was created? That probably should have been a different way to look at it, I guess.
Did I go off tangent?
No. What you said inspired that question.
Okay, good.
So I appreciate that, because I think that's an interesting aspect of it. Because you mentioned Princess Leia, and people say, well, yeah, Princess Leia. And yes, Princess Leia is great. But I think it's fair to say, with all respect to both characters, that we learn more about Rey in one movie than we did Princess Leia in 3. And I think a big part of that is the culture and the time period in which these films were created, and where we sort of were. And I don't think in any way that, I don't mean that pejoratively in any way towards George Lucas. He was very much a pioneer, and making Princess Leia do the things that she did, incredible and an important step in, honestly, allowing Rey to be Rey.
She's different because we meet her, and I felt such loneliness for her, her lifestyle and the way that she has to get along, and she doesn't really necessarily get a whole lot of respect, and she has to kind of fight her way into, like you said, Amy, just fight her way just a way of life, and that longing for hope to be able to find out what's going to happen next for her. For me, she felt lonely to me, but I feel like there was a strength in her that was kind of being untapped. You could see that with her interactions, like you said, with BB-8 and others and things like that, and her standing up for the good and making the good decisions. And we see that throughout the film when she gets off Jakku and looking to just help people out, but yet I think she's also open to adventure in the essence of, like, once they get off Jakku, she wants to directly go back to Jakku and still fulfill that waiting period or whatever it may be. It's interesting too, because you related her to Leia, and I didn't grow up in the 70s. I was more of an 80s kid, and I can't speak to how those women's roles in a Star Wars, or I guess a sci-fi film, was impacted, and the fact that maybe it just wasn't necessarily for women to take on a lead role in the 70s. I still feel like there's a loneliness in her at the end of the movie too. She has this look on her face, like she's like, please, help me out here type thing when she's with Luke. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Interesting. I took that ending reaction very differently than you. I feel like she's more, she's found her home amidst these rocks. Half of the island is rocks and half of it is nature. So she's got this combination of different elements that she's looking at and trying to experience. But I think she feels more at home than she ever has with someone she's never met. Yeah, so I love that you look at it like that. I think that's neat.
Well, I'll say one more thing.
Neither of us know.
Yeah, right. Well, the other thing too is like her expression. Obviously, it's a moment of please take this and tell me what it's about, and tell me if you see something too when you touch it, type thing. And obviously this has impact on you as well. I mean, when you see this lightsaber, and it does. I mean, you see it in their expression, and that scene. There's no dialogue. We can't understand what they're going to say or what they are thinking or doing, but the expression is in their face, and it gives so much poignancy for the actors themselves to just portray that in that final scene there.
I'm thinking about how sad Luke's face is now, and it's making me sad. Because that's how I read his expression, at least. I assume that I know he knows about Han being gone, and that he kind of has this look of sadness and maybe that he's lost. And I'm trying to think what I read in Rey's expression the first time I saw it, except that it was like a tiny bit of desperation, kind of like... I forget which one of you said it already now, because I've just been thinking about Rey's face like you do, and just wanting to know, like, please take this lightsaber, please tell me what's happening, like, yes. please have the answers I've been looking for since I was a little kid.
I agree with you, and it's almost like she's got to, like, all right, let's do this, buddy, come on.
Like, take this lightsaber.
Right, just do this. What are you waiting for? Yeah, sure. I want to see your Luke Skywalker. So she's got there's a bit of like starstruck in her. And you know what? I can't believe I never thought of this, Amy, but you mentioned that Luke knows about Han. I don't know why I never thought about that before. Of course he knows about Han, but I never thought about his reaction to the death of his dear friend.
Anyway, moving ahead here, Poe is the least developed character in the film in some terms. However, his motivation and his characterization is present in the monthly comic book series, as well as the Before the Awakening book. Besides the building blocks of heroism and bravery, who is Poe Dameron, and how does he represent something new for the franchise?
Well, I like, what you said earlier, like, he is new. He has a touch of that Han Solo-ness about him, but he's not arrogant like Han. I like that he's very matter of fact. He's like, nope, I'm just the best pilot. I don't think there's bravado about that, you know?
It just is.
As much as there can't be when you make a statement that's that level of grandiose, but I don't know what he brings that's new. I don't know that we've seen enough to know, because we know he left the Republic to fight for the Resistance. People leaving to join a rebellion, that's not anything particularly new. We know his parents were part of the Rebel Alliance. So I'm very interested in Poe, and I very much like the character, obviously, and I certainly appreciate his wavy hair. As pointed out, it's one of my favorite things about the visual dictionary, or all the, like, I don't know if you guys have read that for The Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, they have to have so many, like, labels per character, and one of them points to, like, Poe's head, and it's like perfect, like, what is it, like hair like tousled by his X-Wing pilot helmet. It's something that's just delightful. So I appreciate all of that, but I'm not sure what new he brings to the galaxy. Am I wrong for thinking that?
Not at all. When I think if it was any other movie and it wasn't Star Wars related, I would have been slightly not bothered, but slightly bemused that Poe was such a favorite, because he really isn't in it very much. He doesn't. I mean, he does some important things, but it's not his story. But then when you keep in mind this is Star Wars, and if you look at the original 3 and the first 3 films, the different characters got different face time in different movies for different reasons, and it's all part of it. And I think we'll learn and see a lot more about Poe. And I think what he does bring new, and I agree with you, Amy, it is a little tricky to think of what he brings something new. But if pressed, I think I would probably say that he's got so much going for him, and he's so skilled and so able, but there is not a hint of arrogance. And you certainly can't say that about other characters who are very good pilots in the films, if you know what I mean, Mr. Carillion. So I think that is kind of neat, that he just is, and he there's no pretension about him, and I think that's quite wonderful.
Well, and maybe you make an interesting concept there, Dan. It's the fact that maybe he has a lot going for him, the fact that he has a lot to lose too. I mean, maybe he's the most grounded because they need him to be in that essence when he meets Finn and meets Rey, and having to stay grounded and stay his mind intact as far as carrying out his mission and what he needs to do. And it's interesting because he has the most to lose in the essence of that. He's got so much going for him. These other characters are learning still as far as they go as their journey, and don't know what's going to happen next, where he kind of has everything established, and if that was to be lost, that he might become more of a broken character.
True, and I think I keep mentioning Before the Awakening because I really love that book. But Poe's story in that book was my favorite, just because it shows how he's recruited into the Resistance by General Leia, and I think that was neat to see how he reacted to someone like Leia and how he motivates. I mean, we've seen in the excellent comic book series, and again Before the Awakening, what kind of impact he has on people. He's a leader in a very unique way that I don't think we've seen before in Star Wars.
I think those are good points.
Well, thank you. You have done some really exciting things in Star Wars and in fandom, and we love, of course, living vicariously through you, and it's great because you've done so many great things that Star Wars and Lucasfilm have noticed. And guess what? Celebration London comes a call, and Amy answers the bat signal. How great is that? It's
pretty surreal still. It's crazy. I'm excited, nervous. But yeah, I can't believe that happens.
Well, sure. I mean, and obviously there's a lot that you're not allowed to say, and we completely respect that. And we're all about that naturally on Coffee with Kenobi. But can you tell us sort of where you were when you first found out, or how it was even brought to your attention, and what kind of went through your mind?
Yeah, so it's funny. Sometime before the season 2 finale of Star Wars Rebels, maybe like a month out, I talked to Tracy Canobio at Lucasfilm. She does publicity for the animated series and other things. And she was like, I want to ask you about this thing with Rebels. And when that's done, I want to ask you about something related to Celebration. And I was like, fine, like one thing at a time. Let's get this hosting of Rebels over with and not completely screw it up. And then we'll see if she still wants to talk about whatever it is. So she brought it up again after the screening ended that night. And I was like, okay, like we'll get in touch soon. And in my head, I'm thinking that she just wants me to maybe host a Rebels panel or some sort of panel, like since I think she knew I was going to be there anyway. And a couple 2 or 3 weeks go by, and I check back in and come to realize she's like, well, would you be interested in hosting a stage? Which, of course, yes, I'm interested. That's not a thing, you say no to. And we had a conversation about it. And, she really emphasized that, like, it's a fair amount of work. Like, you're going to be living on that stage. I'm like, I know, like, I'm not going to see the rest of the convention. Like, I get everything that comes with it. It was not a hard sell. Because I was just like, yes, of course. Like, I can't say no to this opportunity. Like, I can't, regardless of how much it makes my stomach, like, turn in knots.
You're going to be awesome. I mean, you were great in the Rebels thing for season 2.
Thank you very much. And I feel like none of my guests will be as difficult to wrangle as a certain hat-wearing supervising director of Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, you may be onto something there.
So we'll see. I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to be a packed 3 days. I've started to, my schedule is mostly in place for my stage. I haven't seen the other stages yet, but I have several panels that I'm pretty excited about, and some that are I wish I could tell you guys, but I got an email yesterday morning, and I just got back from an international trip, and I was just kind of foggy and jet lagged, and I saw an email introducing me to somebody whose panel is going to be on my stage. And, if I wouldn't have been laying in my bed, I would have fallen over from wherever I was standing. When it woke me right up. I can't wait to share that one. It's as a Star Wars, like, it's just exciting. I hate that I can't say what it is, but
we understand. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hopefully it'll come out soon.
That's great. And I remember watching your interview with Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan for Captain America Civil War, and I thought, oh, that's so awesome. You get to talk to them, and then you've gone on to do some awesome things. I love reading your feed. It's so much fun. You have a blast. And, it's interesting because it's like, for me, we interview some folks, and I get nervous, and I kind of anticipate things. Well, what if this happens, or what if this happens? And I'm curious to know, like, how do you kind of prepare yourself to do this new hosting role for Celebration in Europe?
I'm so nervous. I'm just starting. It's something I wish I could do. My brain will not. I think that's the point of meditation, is to teach your brain to stop running in circles, but I haven't got past the first stage. Also, I'm really antsy, so it'll
be decaf coffee.
Oh, it should be. It will not be. But right now, it's still in the very early stages. But just yesterday, actually, because I want to feel like I'm prepared. You always have to be ready to roll with the punches, and things are always going to happen that you don't expect. And you want to let the conversation develop naturally, whatever it is, instead of like going back to your set of questions and being rigid. But I've made a spreadsheet like with all these little checklists about, I'm like, all right, have we talked about audio Q&A? Have we talked about, some of them actually don't need me as a host. Some of them just want me to introduce their moderator. What kind of like has their tech worked? Are they booked for rehearsals? So spreadsheets are going to get me through.
There you go.
That's cool. Yeah, I very much see hosting like teaching. You have to be prepared for anything and everything, and just kind of trust the process and trust why you were asked to do what you're supposed to do. And honestly, and I mean this without reservation, no one is more deserving, nobody works harder, and nobody has the unique skill set that you do to make this happen. So we couldn't be more proud and excited for you.
Oh, thank you, Dan.
That's true.
It's very nice of you. If nothing else, like even when I stress out, like at the end of the day, like I'm just like, all right, Amy, you love Star Wars. Even if you screw up, like you kind of know the universe a little, maybe more than a little. So you can, if something goes terribly wrong, like you'll be able to recover, and people will probably be nice about it. So
absolutely, and I think it's interesting too, because you kind of got into this with your skills as a writer. And how do you transition from writer to host? I think the metacognitive approach is interesting in that.
Yeah, you know what? It hasn't been easy because I'm quite shy and introverted, and being on camera or being in front of people, interviewing people, was not a strength of mine for a long time. I would, even talking to strangers at conventions, like I would blush and sweat. I still sweat. I'm a nervous sweater. So you guys all know that now. But I used to be just not very capable of doing it. And I figured the only way to get better was just to keep trying it. And I think, I got better at talking to people through doing interviews and stuff for writing. And then I started doing more on camera stuff with IGN at like conventions and doing red carpet interviews when you have to be on your feet. And it was kind of an easing in because when I did those, it was just a microphone in my hand, like my face wasn't on camera. Mm-hmm. And then I was slowly starting to do stuff where I didn't feel self-conscious about putting my whole face in front of people, be it on a stage or on a camera. And I'm still not entirely comfortable, but I can fake it. I can fake it long enough that I forget what I'm doing and I end up having fun.
There you go. You're like get to be an actor.
Kind of, in some ways.
Yeah.
Well, I
can never do that, but eventually I get comfortable and I forget that I was nervous. And then you're like, no, Amy, you got this. It's fine.
Whenever there are certain people that before we talk to them, like it hits me. I'm about to talk to, like, for instance, when I talked to Leland Shee a few weeks ago, I met him before and I knew what a nice, sweet man he is. But knowing that I was talking to him and that publicists were listening in and stuff like that, my palms were actually sweating. And I can honestly tell you, I mean, Corey obviously knows me well, and Amy, you and I, we've met each other a couple times. I don't get nervous. Like, I just don't get nervous. But with that, there's just something about it, and you just sort of let yourself become like a little kid. And then, as you said, it sort of kicks in, you know what? I've got this.
Exactly. But I know those feelings for sure. All the time. I'm like, who am I talking to? Oh, okay. All right. I just have to put that in the back of my head and try not to freak out.
Well, here's a fun one. Who were you the most nervous for in your career to talk to?
Oh, the most nervous. Oh, that's a good question. Why can't I think of one? I mean, I was pretty nervous before the Rebels Q&A. I think that's the most nervous I've ever been, but that was a combo of who it was and what it was. Mm-hmm. I know that recently I interviewed very briefly Ellen and Ed O'Neill for Finding Dory. Wow. And that was a little nerve-wracking because it's Ellen.
Yeah.
It's kind of what she does for a living.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So that was cool. I can't think of one off the top of my head, though. I'm sorry.
No,
I think there have just been too many that I've been nervous about. They all blend together.
Sure. Well, no, that's cool. How about this? Who was the most gregarious and personable, and you thought, wow, this is a person I could actually be a friend and hang out with, and not because of, geekdom, just because they were just nice, sincere people?
Oh, you know what? There have been so many of those. And actually just recently, going back to Finding Dory again, Ty Burrell is the voice of that.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just so fun and kind of silly and casual. I'm like, can we just go get coffee? And not because I have a little bit of a crush on him, but setting that aside, he was just a laid back dude that I really enjoyed talking to.
Well, how could you not love him anyway? I love him in Modern Family.
Yeah, right? Oh, you know who else was really fun? I did the press day for Lego Freemakers, which just premiered this week, maybe today. And Eugene Bird, who plays Xander in the series and also plays John, is it Andy Diggle, John's brother in so. Arrow?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He was really fun to talk with and just really excited about being part of Star Wars. And you guys probably rated this too. When you talk to people about Star Wars, it kind of takes them back to their childhood, and everybody just gets really giddy and excited. And we had a really fun back and forth.
That's cool. It's so neat to sort of peel back the layers, and I think it's fascinating for listeners as well to sort of see there's a lot that goes into this stuff. Amy Ratcliffe may make this look easy, but there's a lot of hard work and prep that goes into it. So we really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come back on Coffee with Kenobi. Where can people get in contact with you if they want to ask you a question or just say hello?
The best place to get a hold of me is on Twitter. I'm at Amy_geek. And if you go there and you want to send me something longer than 140 characters, my email address is alratcliffe@yahoo.com. And you can get how to spell my last name from Twitter, or you're smart. I'm sure you guys can look it up and figure it out because it's a long one to spell. So,
yeah. And if you're at Celebration London, be sure to say hello.
Yes, please come to, we're starting off the convention on Friday morning on the podcast stage with a Full of Sith / Lattes with Leia combo. So I would love if you could come to that. And then, I'll be on the behind the scenes stage pretty much forever. So please come by.
And that's right. We didn't bring that up, but you will be on the Celebration podcast stage as well, and with our great friends from Full of Sith, and that's going to be neat too. We sure wish we could be there to join you, but we will certainly enjoy your coverage and your experiences, and can't wait to talk to you about them in the future.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Well, thank you again so much, Amy, and have a great night.
Thank you, Dan and Corey. Talk to you guys later.
Okay.
Our topic for show number 56 is paradoxes in the Star Wars universe. So many of the great conversations in Star Wars are centered on paradoxical concepts, such as no attachments for the Jedi Order, the Sith speaking openly about their plans, and keeping balance by eliminating evil in the galaxy. And that's only a few of them. Joining us on this topic is Riley Blanton of the Star Wars Report, as we explore these ambiguous mysteries. Be sure to send us an email or MP3 with your thoughts, comments, questions, and opinions to feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. And who knows, your question just might be read on the air.
I like the sound of that.
If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps is for you. Download the free app from iTunes or Google Play and collect your favorite images from the classic 1977 Star Wars cards to Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Force Awakens, and much more. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.
Chewie, get us out of here!
If you would like to respond to our question of the show, have a comment, or just want to say hello, send us an email or MP3 at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for either of us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coreec@coffeewithkenobi.com, or visit us at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section, or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please write a review in iTunes or Stitcher. You can also like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, as well as keep up to date at our Twitter feed at coffeewithkenobi. You can also find us on Tumblr at coffeewithkenobi.tumblr.com. If you enjoy the jazz music, the album is Eye to Eye by Steve Torok.
give the evacuation code signal.
That's it for show number 55 of Coffee with Kenobi. A huge thank you to Amy Ratcliffe for returning and discussing the new Big Three, Finn, Rey, and Poe. Be sure to check out the show notes and links to all of Amy's great contributions to fandom.
A special shout out to Joe Taylor, Dennis Keithley, Bradley W. Hall, Daniel, Angela Souse, Mediocre Jedi, BJ Smith, Eric Struthers, Nick DiCo, Aaron Harris, Mark Suter, Jesse, and Mike Audette for their contributions to our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. By supporting our Patreon page, you help our show in so many ways and can also win a coffee chat podcast of your very own. Check out our website or the show notes for more information. You can also support our show through our Amazon.com, Fandango, Cufflinks.com, Her Universe, Zach Designs, and Steiner Sports affiliate links on the site. Thank you so much for your generosity to the Coffee with Kenobi family.
Be sure to check out our other shows in our Coffee with Kenobi family: Legends Library, Rebels Reactions, Comics with Kenobi, and Lattes with Leia, which are all here on the Coffee with Kenobi feed. A big thanks to our media specialist, Lisa Dullard, our Coffee with Kenobi bloggers, Nick DiCo, everyone who's contributed to the show, and to all of you out there who listen and email Coffee with Kenobi. Don't forget to send us your comments and opinions on the topic for show number 56, Paradoxes in the Star Wars Universe.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here